Ho ho buddies, welcome to Borderline Games. I'm Gareth and today we're playing Chaos Head. Last time, we realised that something weird happened. Basically, we spoke to Misumi? Is that his name? I really need to learn the names of these characters. I need to learn the name of these characters. Chaos Head characters. Let's have a look. Masumi, hey, I got it right. So we spoke to Masumi recently and realised that the demon girl, who is part of the new generation killers, the new gen killers, serial killings, is actually in our classroom, and we've been friends with her this entire time. It's almost like there's been a weird reality shift, and suddenly she's in our classroom and she's normal and there's no weirdness going on. So what's going on with that? Well, let's go find out. So, all my new fears and doubts zoomed through my mind at 1,000,000 kilometers an hour, and before I knew it, homeroom had ended. First period would begin in about 5 minutes. Masumi-kun rushed over to the transfer student's desk, knowing Himi was going to try to lay the moves on her. The other students were clearly interested in her too, and the room had grown louder than usual. At a glance, it may have seemed like a casual, peaceful, ordinary thing. But for me, it was like being caught deep within enemy territory. My heartbeat was going crazy. Anxiety filled my head to bursting, and so much as lifting a finger felt more like more than a one-man job. My brain was in the midst of a civil war. One side urging me to turn around and the other side warning me not to. Taku. Huh? My breath caught in my throat. My mind went completely blank. A voice had come from directly behind me. She really was here. That girl really was here after all. You don't look so good. Are you feeling okay? I needed to run. I needed to run away as fast as I could. Despite that, my legs were shaking so violently that I didn't think I could even stand. And while I was frozen solid, that demon girl, Sakihita Rumi, circled around to the front of my seat. Uh-oh. There she is. You're covered in sweat. You're not sick, are you? Just like 2 days ago, she spoke as if she were concerned about me. Just like 2 days ago, she held out her floral-scented handkerchief. I didn't accept the handkerchief, hurriedly wiping the sweat from my forehead on my own. Why? Why what? I couldn't look her in the eye, but from how she spoke, I could tell she had a smile on her face. Oh yeah. I was going to ask. What exactly did she say to you? Rumi crouched down, resting her chin on her hands. Now at eye level with me, she peered at my face. I quickly looked away. It felt like the anxiety would tear my heart right open at any moment. Damn it. Why wouldn't she just let me go? Someone please help me. I'm real curious. What was she talking about? Who was she asking me about? The transfer student. When she walked past you, she said something under her breath, but all I heard was psst, psst, psst. Do you two know each other? Mimi was still smiling. Was it just me, or was her tone more of a probing one than an actual curious one? I thought you weren't into real girls. But is that really true? Where was she going with this? Was her plan to probe me for personal information and then exploit it for her own gain? At the end of the day, I really didn't give a damn about 3D girls, just like I always said in that sour voice of mine. In that case, are you into me? An icy chill ran down my back. Despite having just wiped the sweat off my forehead, I could feel moisture all over it. Was that a threat? Or could it be that she was inviting me to become her ally? Or maybe she intended to seduce me, acting all mo so she could lure me into a trap. All sorts of alarm bells were going off in my head. I shouldn't be talking to the demon girl anymore. If I did, I'd be signing my own death warrant. What? Taku? I'd hit my breaking point. That was her that was saying that. In a panic, I stood up and dashed for the exit, knocked into several desks on my way out. Okay, where are we going? Good. There's no way I could be cornered on the rooftop. I ran straight up the stairs without looking at anyone, and came out on the empty roof. It didn't seem like she'd chase me. Even so, I couldn't allow myself to relax just yet, so I hugged my knees and decided to hide for a little while in the shadows. My knees were trembling. I couldn't believe that I'd managed to run in this condition. I guess it just showed how desperate I was. I was tired of this reality. The D sword I'd gone out of my way to buy hadn't been useful in the slightest. I obviously couldn't bring it to school with how much it stand out either. I'd been careless. 2 days ago when Masumi-kun told me that Rimi was our classmate, I'd figured that he was either spewing some bullshit or just outright deluding himself. But she really was my classmate. Or at the very least, she'd become one. There was no point in trying to figure out how she'd managed to worm her way in. She was a demon. She could do things that humans were incapable of with ease. Maybe she'd brainwashed my whole class, or maybe she'd brainwashed all the teachers instead. I couldn't go to the hospital anymore, and now I couldn't go to school either. Meanwhile, Yua was at cafe, and Shogun always appeared online. Demon Girl and her underlings were no doubt getting closer and closer to me, continually hitting me with psychological attack after psychological attack as they did it. Maybe I shouldn't leave my base at all anymore. There were enemies in danger at every turn in reality. They disturbed me and threatened my peace, even though all I wanted was to live a quiet life, bothering nobody and being bothered by nobody. I looked up at the blue sky. It floated calmly above me as the wind blew white clouds across its breadth. How nice would it be if I could become one of those clouds? Yeah, that sounds nice. Around 3 hours had passed. I'd stayed in the same place the entire time without moving. I didn't sense anyone else coming up at the moment. I could finally breathe. The problem, however, was that what came after. During break, there would always be students that had come up here to eat lunch. That was why the best way out of this was to escape during 4th period and make a break from a base. It'd mess up my minimum attendance chart, but I didn't possess even a single ounce of courage that had allowed me to return to the classroom where the demon girl was. I decided not to worry about the fact that I'd left my bag in the classroom. All I had in there were textbooks. My wallet, my keys, and anything else important would be in my uniform pockets. I hoped. Growing slightly nervous, I searched my pockets. Wallet, keys, cell phone. They were all there. Oh good. That was when I remembered that someone had called me. I'd been pretty freaked out at the time, but not as much as when Rimi had talked to me. Who the hell called me? I couldn't think of anyone who'd called beside my family. It would make the most sense if it was Nanami. She never thought about whether she might be bothering me after all. The only other people who'd know this number would be... Oh, wait, that's right. I'd given it to those detectives. If it had been one of them, I really should have picked up. They still hadn't sent the officers to my base, like they said they would. So I really needed to talk to them, to make sure that it was still happening. The caller's phone number was displayed on the screen. It didn't seem to be Nanami's, and when I looked closer, I saw that I had a new voicemail. I had the vague feeling that I'd seen this number before. Just in case, I checked the call history. Oh, okay. Horny or deadly? There are only 5 calls on the list. Deadly. Which meant that since I'd bought the cell phone, I'd only received 5 calls. 3 of which were from Nanami. That left 2 others. The one from earlier today and the one from 5 days ago were shown as numbers instead of names, as they hadn't been registered in my address book. They were both from the same number, 03X733X991. Considering they'd gone out their way to leave a message, it was probably someone who really wanted to tell me something. Guess I'd go ahead and listen to it. Oh, Yua? This is Kusunoki, Yua. I'm sorry for calling you so out of the blue like this. However, there's something I need to talk to you about no matter what. I was able to buy the new Sarah-chan figure. I couldn't have done it without you, Nishijou-kun. I'm very grateful. It's very cute but a little lewd, wouldn't you say? When I was buying it, I was really embarrassed. Oh, that's right. Did you see this week's episode of Blood Tune? What an incredible plot twist. My heart was pounding the entire time. I was watching it. Don't you agree? You schizophrenic. You killed someone. Murderer. You're the true culprit. You'll pay for your sins. I won't let you escape. Whose eyes are those eyes? Okay, cool. Even though it had been my own delusion, I was terrified. It was entirely possible that for you to have gotten a hold of my cell phone number from somewhere and called me after all. I didn't want to listen to the voice message anymore if I could help it. But since I'd already simulated the worst possible outcome in my delusions, I should have been able to handle it as long as I only had to listen and nothing else. Shaking off my depression, I set the message to play back. Then, after checking multiple times to make sure the demon girl wasn't there, I put the phone to my ear. Welcome to the voicemail service center. You have one new message. Voicemail number 1, Friday, October 17th, 8:28 AM. The fuck's this? Instead of someone's voice, there was an incredibly familiar melody. It felt like the sound was being recorded from a short distance away. From the phone, maybe the person on the other end was near a pedestrian signal. The song being played was one you'd hear pretty often at crosswalks. It was used in order to let people with visual disabilities know when it was okay to cross. The song was a nursery rhyme called You May Pass, also known as Torians. While there were a lot of people that knew the melody, there weren't many who knew the lyrics. Oh, and I was one of them actually. I'd memorised them back in middle school. Then again, it wasn't like I remembered them perfectly now. Weird. You may pass, you may pass. Where shall this narrow path take us? It is the path to Tenjin Shrine. Please, oh please, will you let us pass? Those with no business will not be let through to celebrate the 7 years of this child's birth. Okay. We have come with an offering. Going may prove easy, but returning is... What? But returning is wee-oo, was what I'd heard from the phone. It sounded like an ambulance, which felt kind of like a bad omen. Meh. It likely didn't actually mean anything, but it still made me feel pretty creeped out. Ugh. Ah! The second after the traffic signal melody got cut off, an extremely loud noise that sounded like a buzzer exploded from the speakers. It was so ridiculously loud that I'd automatically shot the phone away from my ear. What the hell? When I cautiously brought the phone back to my ear, the voicemail had already stopped playing. What was that? Right at the end there, I thought I'd just barely heard a roaring noise. It sounded like the ground itself was rumbling. That buzzer sound was completely separate from the pedestrian signal melody. Considering how loud it had been, the only thing I could think of was that the phone's receiver had deliberately been put next to whatever had made that noise. Was that a prank? My heart began to pound. Had I done something to make someone hate me enough to do that? Who'd even called me in the first place? I could call them back by dialing the number displayed on my phone, but there was no way I'd be able to call back a prank caller. In the end, all I could do was just leave it. Besides, I was stuck in the middle of a situation far worse than any prank call. I returned my phone to my pocket and ever so carefully left the school, making sure to pay close attention to my surroundings as I escaped. Nishijo Takumi's alma mater. Kitazawa Second Elementary School was about a 5-minute walk from the private train station. Banyo Suji had attempted to contact Takumi's elementary school teacher over the phone, only to be told that they had unfortunately passed away. Left with no other choice, Ban had decided to set up a meeting to speak with the person who had answered the phone instead, the head teacher, Camille. Not long after, he arrived at the school together with his partner. Is that the old detective? Ban... So hang on. What is his name? Let's have a look. It was about 5 minutes. Oh, here we go. Ban Yasuji. Ban Yasuji. Yasuji Ban? Oh, okay. That is the senior detective. Okay, cool. As it was a Saturday, the school gate was closed. The two detectives, Ban and Suwa, I could have worked it out from that, stopped in front of it and turned their attention toward the school building. The white walls of the school's exterior had been painted with a brightly coloured, eye-catching mural. Due to his complete lack of knowledge on paintings or any other kind of fine art, Ban had no idea what it signified, but the way the spiral-shaped mural transitioned vertically into an array of 7 different colours reminded him of a rainbow. As Ban stared at the mural, cooling himself with his handheld fan, his partner, Suwa, pushed the intercom button next to the school gate. Suddenly, Ban looked around. He had a feeling that someone was watching him. There was a gaze that seemed to follow him everywhere, leaving him quite discomforted. Oh, he's got the gaze as well. Do I really look that cool? He attempted to strike a casual pose, one that aimed to be dandy and refined. Sir, what's up with the weird pose? They said there's a side entrance by the rear gate, so they want us to come around that way. Ban retired from his pose with a sigh and headed toward the back of the building. The staff room was easy to find. As soon as they entered through the side door, all they had to do was travel down the rear entrance hallway and turn at a single corridor to arrive at the room. There was, of course, no sign of children at the school, although it was likely a mere illusion created by the smooth linoleum floor. Laminated, the two detectives felt far colder inside the building than they had outside. There were 3 teachers in the staff room. Upon seeing the 2 detectives enter the room, one of the 3 stood up and bowed. The man who stood up was named Cameo. His mostly white hair was parted to the side, and he greeted the 2 of them with a gentle smile. Van and Sewer showed their police badges to him almost simultaneously, returned his greeting briefly, then immediately approached the topic at hand. It was Sewer's job to ask the questions. We'd like you to tell us about one of your graduates, Nishijo Takumi-kun. I do indeed remember him. I wasn't a teacher of his myself. However, so I cannot provide you with much detail. Is that all right? Sewer nodded, taking out his notebook and preparing to write everything down. What kind of kid was Nishijo-kun? I remember hearing that he was quite the difficult one. They said he was special, quote unquote. What do you mean? Well, to be proper, he had a, disease that would make it difficult for him to study with his fellow students. Could you be more specific? I don't know if I'm able to say as much. Would you be willing to ask his family or doctor? Schools had recently begun adopting this approach, where they would avoid any issues that may prove difficult to them. They refused to take part in anything that may earn them complaints from parents or any other parties. Such practices made it incredibly difficult for the police to do their jobs. How did his homeroom teacher pass away? There was an accident. While he was taking his class on a field trip, the road their bus was travelling on suddenly collapsed underneath them. Oh, I remember that. I saw it on the news. All of the children survived, sustaining only minor injuries, but... It's such a terrible shame that we lost Mr. Saito. He was the sole victim of the accident. Was Nishijo-kun involved in the accident as well? In response to Ban's question, Kameo shook his head lightly. The boy was absent that day and was not present on the bus. Why was he absent? I seem to recall hearing something about the illness having worsened. Ban too had a faint recollection of the accident. For multiple days following the incident, in the short glimpses Ban caught of the news, he would always see the media swarming the house of the sole boy who'd not been involved in it. It was a truly sad accident. For some reason, while Cameo was repeating himself, he placed a strong emphasis on the word accident. Interesting. Does that suggest he thinks it wasn't an accident? I'd started talking with Grim a lot more before booting up ESO recently, to the point where it was becoming almost like a ritual. It never really mattered what we talked about. We'd trade interesting or funny at-channel threads, go off about porny shit, each other's new comics, recommend, talk about the anime from the day before, or other various dumb stuff. Funnily enough, we didn't actually talk about ESO very much, but that was just because we'd already talked about a lot about it while we were playing it. What we saying? Has there been some weird-ass prank going around recently? Not a lot to go off there. Deets, please. I don't know. I just heard about it from someone I know. I don't know if it's a fad or some shit. It's like... there's a recording of a weird sound and you get that as a voicemail or something. What, like a Mo voice whispering sweet nothings to you? Lol lol. Fuck. Lamau. What a roge is that from? I mean, when you'd rather them just do that to you in person, lol. No one cares now. Whose fucking eyes are those eyes? Grim was still saying that. Thanks to that, I started to feel awful I started to feel awful pretty much immediately. I started to feel awful pretty. Not to mention he was talking really weird in chat to the point where it felt fairly forced, like he was trying way too hard to be funny by shoving those words in. Or at the very least, I didn't find it funny. In fact, it felt more cringy than anything. But I couldn't let myself get angry with him until I'd gotten my info about the prank, so I was forced to put up with it. Okay. So it looks like the sounds of a wild otaku freak fapping then. Okay, that's too far. Bit gross. But in all seriousness, they play You May Pass. You May Pass, what, like the song? The one that plays at crosswalks and shit? Yeah, that one. And then while it's playing, it get cut off halfway and swapped to a buzzer-like sound. Apparently the volume is... Yeah, oh, okay. I'm not going to say that. So yeah, ever heard of a prank like that? That's the kind of thing you'd find floating around that channel, right? Yesterday I'd gotten a voicemail with a mysterious buzzer sound. I had no idea who'd sent it, and the contents unsettled me for some reason, which was why I decided to try and ask Grim if he knew about it. If it was just a simple prank, I could just forget about it. Forget about it! Huh? Grim wasn't responding. Why was he being silent? Hello? Did you die? Still no response. Grim didn't usually fall asleep like this. In fact, this was the first time it ever happened. If he actually had fallen asleep, then I guess I'd just log off. We'd meet up again later in ESO anyway, so I could just bring it up again then. But the second I thought that, I began to get up from my chair. Kept you waiting, huh? I was sifting through our channel. I was looking for stuff about your prank. Oh, so that was why he disappeared. But that meant that even the oh-so-well-informed Grim hadn't known about the prank. Well, you kind of made up the idea that it was a prank. But no matter how many threads or boards or whatever I searched, I found nothing. Not on that channel, not anywhere on the net. So would that mean that whoever had pulled that prank had some sort of personal grudge against me? I was still curious about the true identity of the caller, but I wasn't brave enough to call them back. Wait, that's it! Since I knew the phone number, that meant I could have someone else call it for me. That way they could take the fall. The best person for the job would be Nanami or Masumi-kun. Wait, Masumi-kun may have been brainwashed by the demon girl, so that wouldn't work. As for Nanami, however, I was sure I'd have no trouble asking her to do it. She'd probably get pissed at me afterwards, but who gives a shit? Hell, if anything, it'd be good for her to suffer the tortures of society every once in a while. I thanked Grim for his help. I promised that I'd meet back up with him on ESO in a few hours and close the chat. Right as I did so, I felt my stomach growl. Man, I was hungry. Did I have any cup ramen stocked anywhere? I tried looking around for a bit, but I couldn't find any. Reluctantly, I decided to head to the convenience store to buy some. The sun was already setting. I wanted to avoid going out late at night as much as possible, because every time I did recently, nothing good ever came of it. I unconsciously started walking faster, hurrying down the road toward the convenience store. Oopsie. Today was a Saturday, so I'd expected to run across a ton of pedestrians, but I hadn't encountered a single one so far. It's a red flag. All of the stores that should have been open were closed, which kind of weirded me out a little. Maybe I was just confused. Like, maybe I just thought it was 7 PM when it was actually 2 AM. Yeah, like that'd ever happen. But even so, it was way too quiet. I could barely hear any of the normal city noises you'd expect. The aura the city was giving off was different than usual. I arrived at the Shinsen Station convenience store. It It was right in front of the train station, and yet there wasn't a single person here either. I was starting to get more and more freaked out. The sudden disappearance of something I'd taken for granted was enough to make me feel like I'd been transported to a completely different world. On a normal day, I would always avoid running into or talking to other people, but all I wanted right now was just to see another person's face. I burst inside the convenience store. There has to be someone working here, I thought to myself as I looked around the store. Oh. We did deadly. Time for horny. There's no one here. There were no customers, nor any employees. There's no way. This couldn't be happening. An employee had to be in the back. If I were to just bring something up to the register, they should come out right after. So, I decided to leisurely grab a box lunch, pretend to flip through a manga magazine while I was at it, and then come up to the counter and set the box down. No one came out. Maybe there really wasn't anyone here. Fine, if that was the case then... I grabbed the box lunch off the counter and headed straight for the automated door. I stood in front of the door and it opened automatically, but just as I was about to step outside... Wait! An employee finally emerged from the back room, behind the cash register. He was a bleary, gloomy-looking guy, most likely a college student. He leaned over the counter and glared at me with dull eyes. You just tried to shoplift, didn't you? I shrugged my shoulders and walked back to the register. Yeah, because you didn't come out. So, as I was catching some Z's, the employee bowed his head with a shit-eating grin. It felt like he was mocking me. I was pissed. The convenience store clearly didn't give a shit about training its part-timers. Go to hell. I can just go ahead and take this for free, yeah? What? How is that in any way related? It's your responsibility, so you pay for it. Fuck off, you fucking neat. You son of a... I swung at him without thinking. Uh-oh. My incredibly fast straight punch hit him square in the nose. With a pathetic yelp, he flew backwards, collided with the shelf, then fell to the ground. A magnificent punch if I do say so myself. But he was dead. I'm sorry. As blood gushed from his nose, the employee got down on his knees and hands and knees and bowed with tears in his eyes. Forget about the money. Please, just leave. Glad you know your place. While I was at it, I swiped 4 of the dorayaki that were on display by the register and headed for the door satisfied. Good luck ever seeing me here again, asshole. Throwing out that line to get the perfect last word, I leisurely exited the store. So green isn't like horny. It's kind of just a weirdly positive one, right? And red is just a bad one, an unpleasant one, a one that he likes, a one that he doesn't, basically. Several minutes had passed while I was having my delusion. There was still no sign of any employees. I had no intention of staining my hands with delinquent behaviour, despite my delusion just now. That being said, I also couldn't bring myself to yell out for an employee either, so I just stood there in the deserted store without moving. Like a weirdo. I wanted to believe that the employee was just taking a nap, so I waited for another 5 minutes. But while I waited, no employees showed up, nor did any customers enter the store. There wasn't even as much as a sound. After enough time had passed, I started to feel scared, so I put the boxed lunch back on the shelf and left the store. I opted to go to the I opted to go to the railroad crossing located right next to the station. From there, I'd be able to get to the to see the Shinsen station platform. There was no way a place like that would be deserted, right? That's what I hoped anyway, but there was no one there. I waited for a train to come. Once that happened, there would be a bunch of passengers that would get off. But even if no one got off, I'd definitely see people riding the train as it passed in front of me. Even after 10 minutes, a train still hadn't come. What is going on? I tried to convince myself that there must have been an accident or something that had messed with the schedule, but there was no sign of any passengers on the platform. It was then that I finally realised the gravity of the situation. This was weird. This was really, really weird. That's it. I'll go to Shibuya Station. There absolutely had to be people there, no doubt about it. There were people walking in front of Shibuya Station 24/7 without fail. I broke into a room without thinking. I ran as fast as I could. I didn't want to stop even if I was out of breath. It was probably the first time in my life that I'd ever run so hard. As I ran, I hoped that there was just this was just some sick dream I was having, but I knew it wasn't. My heart and lungs felt like they were about to explode. The pain was far beyond what you could feel in a dream. It surprised me how unbelievably fast I was breathing. And yet, no matter how much I inhaled, the pain refused to go away. As I kept running down Donganzaka, I finally saw 107. By the time I did, my legs were already shaky, my body felt extremely heavy. Even so, I forced my feet to keep moving. I no longer had it in me to pay attention to my surroundings. The entirety of my consciousness was focused on Scramble Crossing, the symbol of Shibuya. Almost there. Just a little bit farther. The second I passed 107, it'd be right there. The largest in Japan. It was a place where the largest number of people in Japan came together all at once. That was why I had to get to the scramble. To scramble. Wow. Okay, we're in trouble. Nobody. Something weird is happening. Empty. That was the state of Shibuya Station, which I could see from the wide junction running in front of 107. A world without sound. A world that felt dead. A place which had always been flooded with overwhelming sound, now ruled by silence. The only thing I could hear was the sound of my own heavy breathing. This can't. I fell to my knees in the middle of the large street. I couldn't walk another step. The shock had stolen every last ounce of strength from my body. This is Shibuya, right? There was no one to my left, to my right, in front of me, behind me. There was no one anywhere, even though 7 PM on a Saturday night was when Shibuya should have been the most crowded. What was going on? This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. We'll find out next time on Borderline Games what exactly is happening in Chaos Head. It's so weird. I guess, I don't know. Maybe it's just all a dream. I guess we'll find out. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Chaos Head. And I'll see you next time. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.